to welcome you to another episode of the Polished Perspective podcast. I am your host, Natasha Tupper, and I have with me Liv RJ. Liv is a serial survivor turned thriver who has overcome desperate situations such as a fatal car crash, childhood homelessness, abuse, sexual assault, cancer, two strokes, and if you could believe it, whose office used to be in World Trade Center 1. So she is also a survivor of those horrific 9/11 attacks. She embraced her wounds as an engine for personal growth, for wisdom, and for abundance, becoming a financial journalist and then a diplomat before launching several businesses, including a coaching practice 13 years ago, where she supported change for individuals and institutions. Born in Madagascar, she has lived in 13 countries around the world, and today she uses her story to inspire and empower others. Liv, welcome to the show.
Hi, Natasha. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're so glad that you're able to join us today. You know, what a wonderful and varied story. And though you have been and are a serial survivor and at this point a thriver, I just wanted to know what would you share with women who have gone through maybe similar things or maybe things that were not so overwhelming, what would you share with them about their journey?
Well, I think this is one thing that we're always tempted to do when we go through difficult situations, all of us, men and women, is that we tend to close down. We build walls around ourselves. We tighten up and we become very hard in the way that we are to the world. And I think that's the biggest threat, not just to ourselves as the people going through, whatever we're going through, but also for society as a whole. Because what happens if, there's only people who are really guarded and afraid and actually in survival mode? Because when you're in survival mode, everything is a threat. So therefore, you build the walls around you, etc., etc. It's hard to get to you. It's hard to have intimate relationships. You can't have a proper relationship with, a romantic partner. All of that is really hard. Having proper relationships with friends, real friendships, deep and lasting friendships, all of that is really hard. So what I would say in all of this is, I know it's hard, but you can do it. If I can, you can. First of all, you can do
Yes.
it. Maybe you can tell yourself, well, it's a challenge now, but eventually I'll get there. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I would say is, you know what? Try to remain soft. Try to remain welcoming. Try to remain open. Because if you've had one, two, 20, or, I don't know how many difficult situations, and it doesn't have to be dramatic situations like the ones, in my own personal story. Everybody has something hard that they deal with, in a lifetime. It can be heartbreak, it can be the loss of someone dear, or it can be a failure at an exam. It can be anything really. We all go through difficult things. What I'm saying is, don't let this one event or these few events turn you into, let's get the image of the turtle. Don't turn into a turtle whereby you go into your shell and then it's super hard to connect with you. It's super hard for you to connect with other people. And then you're making your life much harder because of that. You're not letting people reach out to you, and you're not reaching out to people. You're not reaching out to people. You're not asking for help either. So try to remain open. Try to remain as welcoming as you can. Just because something bad happened doesn't mean it's always going to be bad. Stay in the mentality of abundance, a mentality of the good. Things will improve.
Yes,
But
yes. And you know what? For our listening audience who isn't familiar, who's not sure what it means to have a mindset of abundance. And let me just say, I understand that when we go through things, that it is hard, that it is difficult, that sometimes we retreat. And like you said, we can become hardened and bitter. But explain to the listening audience what you mean by an abundance mindset.
So, for example, I gave you the example earlier on. I said, if it's something hard, and let's say you tell yourself, "Oh, this thing's never happened to me. Oh, this is too hard. I always feel at this." Instead of saying that, why don't you train your brain into saying something along the lines of, "Yes, it's hard right now, and it is a challenge for me, but it'll work out. I will find a way. Eventually, I will get there." So it's not about this toxic positivity of like, yeah,
Mhm.
it's not bad, I'm gonna blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. It's like, step one, recognize, acknowledge the situation. Yes, it's hard. Yes, I'm struggling with this. And then pivot. And at the same time, I am working on it, which is where you are now. And then go into the future. And actually, I will manage. If other people manage, you can manage. This is what I call an abundance mindset. Basically, avoiding being stuck in the drama of yourself and still acknowledging where you are without making it dramatic, but saying, yes, actually, this is what's happening. And yet I am working on it and I am going to get out of it.
Yes.
So, you know what happens with habits? It's the brain doesn't know the difference between what's already happened and what hasn't. It just takes what you give it. So that's why it's super important to be careful about your thoughts and words that you use. So if you say that, basically you're building new neurological connections in your brain to turn you towards the positive side, towards the possibilities. I'd rather use the word possibility. If you say, well, yes, I'm struggling now, and yet I'm working on it, then I'm going to, manage. You're opening the door to the possibilities. And possibilities, it's always, infinite.
They are. They
So
are.
that is what I call an abundance mindset in this specific case, at least.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing that and making it clear that you're not speaking of the whole toxic positivity thing because it is so much more and it is so much deeper than that. And so, thank you for clarifying that. When you were speaking just a little while earlier, it reminded me of a scripture that says, and just to paraphrase that, as you think,
Mhm.
so are you. And like you were saying, it's what you create, it's what those possibilities are, what you're thinking in your heart, what you're thinking in your mind. Those are the things that we want to manifest. And so if we dwell in that hard place and in that bitter place, or even that place of shame and discouragement and just defeatedness, that's what will continue to manifest in our lives. And so I just wanted to thank you for sharing your story. Let me ask you a question. What are you up to now? What are you doing now?
Well, it's super exciting what I'm up to now. So, on the one hand, I am coaching, I'm helping women reconnect with themselves. And I love what you just said earlier on, about it is what we're thinking in our minds and in our hearts. My job with women is to help them reconnect their brains with their hearts and their guts, to be whole again and not to be a thinking mind on one side and a body on the other side, but just to be completely whole and live a very conscious life in however they want to choose to do it. So that's one thing that I do. I coach women. But then on the other hand, the super exciting part is I've bought a 16th century farm in France's Loire Valley, where I'm talking to you from today. And the goal for me is to transform a whole bunch of the buildings, because there's a bunch of buildings, into a place where I can welcome, again, this term of welcoming women in
Mhm.
compassion and in joy, so that basically they can disconnect from the noise, that's outside, all the busyness, and reconnect with their inner selves, with their true selves, with their souls. And then from there on, move on to a, a life that they love. So it's a place where I want to have host retreats for women. I have to say that I really want to help the women that have less help than others, meaning, women of color. I am one myself, so of course, it's super important for me, right?
Yes.
And any minority women is welcome here, absolutely. My arms are wide open and the place is wide open. So for that, I bought this place, and again, this is the abundance mindset. I bought this place, and evidently there is a lot of work, and people are like, "Are you crazy? How are you going to do this?" And I just said, "You know what? Just going to go with it. If it works, it works. That I can buy it. If
Hmm.
the owners would accept my very low offer, which was unpredictable, but they actually did, which
Yeah.
is insane. So it was meant, for me to be here. And also, I just said, and then I'll figure it out. Opening the possibilities. I'll
Yes.
figure it out. I don't need to have all the answers right here and now. I don't need to have all the answers in a year. I don't need to know everything. It's not up to me to know everything. I just trust the process.
Hmm.
I'll figure it out. Abundance mindset. So that's what I'm doing now. And I am at the moment, I spent the whole weekend actually working on one of the buildings. It's a small cottage. We discovered last week that it was actually at least 15th century, if not earlier. Oh my God. So super precious. I know. Super
Wow.
excited. And I'm actually working on really rebuilding that so that the rest of the buildings that I've already worked on, and trust me, those little hands, they work every morning. I am building walls myself, like, real walls, not the walls that we built, to
Yes.
connect from other people. But this time, I'm building old walls myself. I'm doing paint. I'm doing a whole bunch of things and sewing and nailing and all these things. So this whole weekend, we've been destroying the former floors that were really rotten from that place. But I do need funds for that, and I've launched a GoFundMe for it. And I would love for anyone who's interested in this to help, because once that one is done, then the rest of the buildings can already be used, and I can already start hosting intimate retreats, 4, 5, 6 people maximum, live in a house as a family and do all sorts of activities, creative activities, and activities that actually center you on yourself and your inner self. I'm super excited. I really cannot wait.
Wow. I am just so excited about what you're doing. It's amazing to me, just the things that we can undertake and then have them to be an absolute success, which I believe that your farm and the cottages over there, I think it's going to be massively successful in a way that it helps to help women, to
Yeah,
ground women, to
thank you.
revitalize women. And so I just cannot wait until everything is finished and you are opened up to us, because I
Yeah,
hope to come one day.
I
It's
really
so
hope you're coming here.
exciting. Yes, yes, yes. And so you can definitely count on my support with the GoFundMe. And I am encouraging the listening audience. Please know that there will be a link provided where you can go and you can support Liv in what it is that she's doing, because certainly it is not an inward work, but it is an outward work. And not just support the GoFundMe link financially, but listen, keep your eye on it, because once it is done, you definitely want to go grab your ticket and take some
Absolutely.
time to yourself and go and refresh and regenerate
Absolutely.
and revitalize. So I love what you're doing there, and we are definitely behind you.